By 2025, over 1.1 billion women will enter menopause, spending nearly 40% of their lives in this biological shift. Yet no one told us what happens when estrogen fades and the brain's chemistry begins to collapse. That's why so many women after 50 feel anxious, unfocused, and emotionally fragile. This isn't weakness, it's neurochemical withdrawal. And once you understand what's happening inside your brain, everything changes. I'm Dr. Eliza Hart, a women's health specialist with over 15 years of clinical practice, dedicated to helping women over 50 restore balance naturally, not through fear, but through knowledge and gentle lifestyle medicine. In today's video, we'll uncover the real reason menopause feels so heavy, not just hot flashes or extra pounds, but the silent rewiring of your brain's hormones and neurotransmitters that changes how you think, feel, and connect. You'll learn how to rebuild that sense of calm energy and clarity with small, science-based habits that truly work for mature women, because your body isn't failing you. It's simply asking for a different kind of care. Before we begin, if you've noticed your emotions or focus shifting after 50, type 1 in the comments. If you haven't reached this stage yet, but want to understand it early, type 0. And please subscribe and help me reach my first 10,000 subscribers. It will give me the motivation to keep creating honest, science-based guidance for women just like you. 1. When the brain grows silent. The hidden language of menopause. When we talk about menopause, most people imagine hot flashes, night sweats, or maybe a few extra pounds. But the real transformation happens in a place we can't see inside the brain. This is where every emotion, every thought, and every piece of motivation begins. And yet for women over 50, this powerful organ often starts to grow quiet, not because it's weak, but because its language is changing. For decades, medicine taught us that menopause was simply a drop in estrogen and progesterone, a reproductive event, not a neurological one. But emerging neuroscience reveals a deeper truth. Those hormones are not limited to fertility. They are chemical messengers that shape the way your brain functions every single day. When estrogen declines, so does serotonin, the molecule that keeps your mood steady and your thoughts clear, dopamine. The spark of curiosity and drive begins to fade. Progesterone, once your body's natural calming agent, drops and takes with it GABA, the neurotransmitter that helps you sleep, relax, and let go of tension. The result is not just physical change, but an emotional echo, a kind of silence that women describe as feeling detached, not recognizing themselves or living in a fog. These are not failures of willpower. They are biological consequences of a brain trying to recalibrate its chemistry after decades of hormonal rhythm. The brain, once bathed in estrogen's steady guidance, now has to learn how to function with less. And that transition can feel like standing in a room where the music suddenly stops. Here's what many women don't realize: this silence is not permanent. The brain is extraordinarily adaptable. It can rewire itself, create new connections, and strengthen alternative chemical pathways. But for that to happen, we must understand what it's asking for. You might notice you're quicker to anger, more sensitive to sound, or suddenly overwhelmed by things that once felt easy. These are not random reactions. They're your brain's way of signaling that its chemical dialogue has changed. It is craving balance, stability, and nourishment from new sources. As a physician, I've watched women transform the moment they recognize that menopause is not an ending, but a neurological reprogramming. The anxiety, the sleepless nights, the irritability, all of it becomes less frightening once you realize it has a name, a cause, and most importantly, a solution. When you start to interpret your symptoms as messages, not malfunctions, you open the door to healing that goes far beyond hormone replacement. So as we move deeper into this journey together, keep one thought in mind. Your brain is not breaking down, it's rewriting itself. And once you understand its new rhythm, you'll see that peace, clarity, and focus are still within reach, just written in a different biological language. 2. The neurochemical armor, when protection begins to crack. For much of your adult life, your brain has been shielded by what I call neurochemical armor, an invisible network of hormones and neurotransmitters that protected your mood, focus, and emotional balance. Estrogen and progesterone weren't only preparing your body for reproduction, they were nurturing your nervous system, guarding your brain cells, and keeping your inner world steady no matter how chaotic life became. But somewhere after 50, that armor begins to thin. It doesn't disappear all at once. It softens slowly like fabric worn by years of sunlight. Estrogen's decline doesn't just mark the end of fertility, it disrupts communication between brain cells. Without its stabilizing influence, signals that once moved smoothly begin to spark unpredictably. That's why a harmless comment can suddenly sting, why stress feels heavier, and why things that never used to bother you now seem unbearable. It isn't just hormones. It's your brain reacting to the loss of its natural protection. The science behind this is clear and fascinating. Estrogen supports the production of serotonin and dopamine chemicals that regulate mood, motivation, and resilience. When levels fall, the brain becomes more reactive to stress hormones like cortisol. Small frustrations can feel like emotional earthquakes. Your nervous system, once balanced, shifts toward a state of hyper-alertness. You may notice yourself getting startled easily, losing patience, or craving isolation, not because you've changed as a person, but because your neurochemical armor is cracking. Many women misinterpret these shifts as personality flaws. They think they've become too emotional, too sensitive, or too tired to care. In reality, the brain is trying to find a new equilibrium without the chemical shield it relied on for decades. This is not the beginning of decline, it's the beginning of adaptation. The brain is still capable of resilience, but it needs support, sleep, nourishment, and moments of stillness to rebuild its internal scaffolding. In clinical settings, I've seen how understanding this concept changes everything. Once a woman realizes her reactions have a biological cause, guilt and frustration give way to compassion. She stops fighting herself and begins working with her body instead of against it. That shift from blame to awareness is often the first and most powerful step toward healing. When you begin to understand that this shift is not a loss, but a transition, you open the possibility of rebuilding from a wiser place. The female brain, even after menopause, can still regenerate. Synapses create new connections and respond beautifully to nurturing habits. It doesn't ask for perfection, only consistency, compassion, and the willingness to start listening again. Over time, as balance returns, you may find that your emotional range becomes deeper, your awareness sharper, and your sense of self more grounded than before. Menopause, when seen through this lens, is not the fading of who you were, it's the refinement of who you are becoming. 3. Fasting, the brain's quiet medicine. Every woman reaches a moment when the noise inside her mind feels louder than the world around her, thoughts racing, sleep disappearing, and a strange sense that peace has slipped away. What most don't realize is that the brain, in its constant search for balance, sometimes needs silence. Not just from the outside world, but from digestion itself. This is where fasting, when done wisely, becomes less about diet and more about neurochemical restoration. Inside the body, fasting sets off a series of elegant biochemical events. As glucose levels drop, your cells begin producing ketones, a clean, efficient source of fuel for the brain. These ketones trigger the release of BDNF, a protein that helps neurons grow stronger and communicate more effectively. It's the same molecule linked to better memory, mood stability, and sharper thinking. For women over 50, this is more than just metabolism. It's a lifeline for a brain learning to function with less estrogen and progesterone. Modern research shows that even gentle fasting can lift fog, reduce anxiety, and improve sleep quality, not through willpower, but through chemistry. When insulin levels lower and the liver shifts into fat-burning mode, inflammatory signals quiet down. The brain, once under hormonal stress, begins to feel lighter, calmer, and more responsive. It's as if the static that once filled every thought starts to clear, revealing a steadier rhythm underneath. But fasting must never be an act of punishment. The goal is not deprivation, it's permission. permission for the body to rest from constant intake and to redirect its energy toward repair. A short nightly fast of 12 to 14 hours, paired with hydration and nourishing meals during the day, is enough to awaken the brain's natural rhythm of renewal. You don't have to starve to heal. You just have to give your body the pause it's been asking for. Over the years, I've seen countless women transform by embracing this pause. Their faces soften, their minds sharpen, and their energy stabilizes in a way that feels effortless. The secret is never extremity. It's consistency, gentleness, and awareness. When you fast with kindness, your brain interprets it not as scarcity, but as safety. When practiced with awareness, fasting becomes an act of dialogue between you and your body. Each pause teaches your cells how to listen again, how to repair without rush. Over time, this rhythm of restraint and renewal strengthens not only metabolism, but emotional clarity, transforming stillness into one of the most powerful forms of self-care. And if any part of this resonates with you, if you've noticed your thoughts slowing down or your focus returning after skipping a late-night snack, tell me in the comments. Type 1 if you've tried fasting before, or 0 if you're curious but haven't started yet. Your stories help other women feel less alone in this process, and they remind us that healing isn't a solo journey, it's a shared evolution toward balance. 4. Movement awakening, the chemistry of joy. There's a quiet truth hidden in every woman's body. Motion heals what medicine often cannot. Yet after 50, many women move less, not out of laziness, but because their bodies feel slower, stiffer, more uncertain. What few realize is that the decline in movement accelerates the very chemical losses that make us feel heavy, anxious, or detached. Exercise isn't simply about staying fit, it's about reigniting the brain's forgotten language of vitality. When you move even for a few minutes, your body begins a cascade of neurochemical reactions. High-intensity intervals, short bursts that raise and lower your heart rate, stimulate serotonin and dopamine, lifting mood and sharpening focus. Gentle resistance training, such as lifting light weights or using body weight, activates the production of BDNF, the same growth factor sparked by fasting. It tells the brain we are alive, adapting, evolving. Meanwhile, aerobic movement, a brisk walk, dancing, swimming, or cycling, releases oxytocin and endorphins, softening the edges of stress and restoring emotional warmth. What makes movement so powerful for women over 50 is not intensity, but intention. You no longer need to chase numbers, burn calories, or compete with the woman you once were. Instead, movement becomes medicine, a way to harmonize with your new neurochemistry. 10 minutes of rhythmic walking outdoors can lower cortisol and invite calm. Stretching before bed can reset your parasympathetic nervous system, guiding the body into deeper rest. Every motion is a form of dialogue between your muscles and your mind. I often remind my patients that stillness is not rest. Stagnation breeds tension. The body craves gentle motion, the way the mind craves understanding. When you begin to see movement not as a chore, but as nourishment, every step feels purposeful. The heart pumps differently when you walk with awareness, and the brain begins releasing oxytocin, the same hormone that fosters trust and emotional connection. This is why a single act of movement can shift the course of your day. You might begin with fatigue but finish with focus, start with heaviness but end with gratitude. Over time, these small physical gestures reshape your inner landscape. They reawaken memory, strengthen mood, and even help restore balance in hormone-sensitive brain circuits. Science calls it neuroplasticity. I call it coming home to yourself. Movement also has a poetic intelligence of its own. When you move in rhythm, whether through walking, dancing, or mindful stretching, your nervous system begins to synchronize with breath and heartbeat. This gentle coordination restores emotional balance and steadies your mind against the noise of modern life. In those quiet moving moments, you rediscover something profound. Motion isn't about effort, it's about remembering flow. 5. Breath and connection, the forgotten therapy of the mind. There is a kind of medicine that requires no prescription, no equipment, and no cost, only your breath. Yet it is the one tool most women abandon without realizing it. After 50, when hormones fluctuate and stress feels closer to the surface, breathing becomes shallow, hurried, and disconnected from the body. It's as if life itself is moving faster while you're trying to hold on. The truth is, breath is not simply oxygen. It's the body's most direct way of telling the nervous system you are safe. When you slow your breathing, for example, inhaling for 4 counts, holding for 7, and exhaling for 8, you activate the vagus nerve, a pathway that calms the entire system. This single act increases GABA, the neurotransmitter that soothes anxiety and quiets intrusive thoughts. In less than 2 minutes, your heart rate lowers, cortisol drops, and your body begins to remember peace. Breathing consciously, even for a few minutes a day, can shift the entire chemistry of your brain from survival to restoration. But breath alone is only part of the therapy. Connection, the emotional counterpart to oxygen, is equally vital. Human touch, laughter, and shared presence stimulate oxytocin, the hormone of bonding and emotional safety. This is why isolation deepens anxiety during menopause. Without regular doses of oxytocin, the brain feels unseen, unloved, and chemically adrift. We are wired to regulate not just through hormones, but through each other. In Okinawa, women have a tradition called moai, small circles of friendship, where they share food stories and burdens. Science now understands what culture knew long ago. When women gather, they regulate one another's nervous systems. A simple smile, a gentle word, or a warm embrace can trigger oxytocin release, strong enough to steady the heartbeat and lower blood pressure. These are not sentimental gestures, they are biological necessities. For women over 50, cultivating breath and connection is not indulgence, it's self-preservation. Deep breathing teaches the brain stillness. Human closeness teaches it safety. When both exist, the body begins to repair. Even a few minutes of shared laughter or slow breathing before sleep can reset your entire chemistry overnight. I often tell my patients your next great healer might not be a pill or a program. It might be a moment of silence, a shared cup of tea, a hand held just a little longer. Healing doesn't always require effort. Sometimes it begins with exhaling what no longer serves you. So tonight, before you sleep, close your eyes and take one slow, deliberate breath. Feel it expand through your chest, and as you release it, imagine letting go of every heavy thought. The rhythm of your breath and the people who make you feel safe are the oldest therapies known to humankind, and perhaps the ones we need most. 6. Cellular nutrition, feeding the brain and hormones back to life. There's a quiet revolution that happens when you stop eating to stay thin and start eating to stay alive. Not in years, but in clarity, memory, and vitality. For women over 50, nutrition is no longer about managing weight. It's about rebuilding chemistry at the deepest level. Your brain, now navigating life with fewer hormones, depends on nutrients the way a symphony depends on sound. Without the right building blocks, the notes fade, and what remains is static fatigue, brain fog, and emotional dullness. Every thought, every feeling, every burst of energy begins inside a cell, and what those cells are made of depends on what you feed them. After menopause, the body's ability to absorb nutrients declines, especially those needed for neurotransmitter production and hormonal repair. Omega-3 fatty acids from fish and flaxseed strengthen the membranes of neurons, helping signals move smoothly between brain cells. Magnesium calms excitatory impulses, reducing anxiety and muscle tension. B vitamins, particularly B6, B12, and folate, support serotonin and dopamine synthesis, the chemistry of motivation and joy. Choline nourishes memory, and zinc helps regulate estrogen receptors still active in the brain. These are not supplements to chase youth. They are molecules of balance, restoring the rhythm your brain once took for granted. I've seen women transform simply by eating with awareness. A breakfast rich in healthy fats, avocado, walnuts, or salmon can stabilize mood through the morning. Dark leafy greens feed your mitochondria, the energy factories of your cells, while colorful vegetables bring antioxidants that cool inflammation. Food isn't just sustenance, it's information. Every bite tells your body how to respond to stress, how to create energy, and how to repair what time has worn down. And yet, nutrition for women after 50 is as much about how you eat as what you eat. The nervous system thrives on rhythm and calm. When you eat slowly, chew thoroughly, and breathe between bites, digestion deepens and absorption improves. The gut, often called the second brain, communicates directly with your mind through the vagus nerve. A calm meal literally sends a message of safety to your entire body. In a world obsessed with restriction, learning to eat intuitively is a radical act of healing. You don't need a perfect plan. You need presence. Listen to what your body asks for: warmth, hydration, nourishment, and it will begin to respond with focus, steadiness, and gratitude. As we reach the close of this journey, remember, your brain's chemistry is built one meal, one breath, one act of kindness at a time. You are not depleting, you are rebuilding. Menopause isn't your body shutting down. It's your biology inviting you to feed it differently, love it deeper, and finally to live with a wisdom that only time can teach. Menopause isn't a loss, it's an awakening. Your body isn't shutting down, it's rewriting its chemistry to support the woman you are now. Every symptom you've felt, every restless night or burst of emotion has been your brain asking for new ways of care. Once you learn to listen, the struggle turns into understanding. We've explored how balance can be rebuilt through awareness of your changing brain by protecting your neurochemical armor, fasting gently, moving with intention, breathing deeply, connecting with others, and feeding your cells what they need to thrive. These aren't drastic changes. They're quiet adjustments that over time remind your body it is safe and capable of renewal. If there's one truth to hold on to, it's this: your body is not failing you. It's evolving, inviting you to live with a softer rhythm, one that values nourishment over speed, stillness over struggle. With patience and daily care, clarity and calm always return. Thank you for sharing this time with me. If this message resonated with you, please subscribe. Leave a comment and share it with another woman who might need this reminder today. Your support helps me continue bringing evidence-based guidance and compassion to women over 50. Until next time, take a deep breath. Your best chapter is still unfolding.